We saw something similar happen when they released the manifesto for Madhya Pradesh. The elections happened today. Now they want to do exactly that in Telangana, which goes to elections later this month. Today, the Grand Old Party released its manifesto for Telangana. It goes to elections on the 30th of this month. From 2,500 rupees monthly financial assistance to women to 200 units free electricity for all households. The Congress party in Telangana has raised the bar on manifestos, many would say. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge declared that the 6 guarantees that form the backbone of their manifesto and of their plan in Telangana. He also promised that those 6 guarantees will be implemented in the first cabinet meeting itself if they are voted to power in the state. Here's a quick glance of what these 6 guarantees are made by the Congress party. It's a similar lines as far as Karnataka is concerned. Mahalakshmi scheme, this is for women. 2,500 per month to women, gas cylinders at 500 rupees, free travel for women in state buses. This is something, like I said, on the lines of what they promised in Karnataka. The Raitu Bharosa scheme, 15,000 rupees per acre to farmers, 12,000 per year to agricultural labour and a bonus of 500 rupees of paddy per quintal. This is as far as farmers are concerned. Now for households, electricity is also of key focus for the Congress party. 200 units free electricity for all households is what they have promised. There is another scheme that has come to the fore as far as housing, an affordable one, and that is concerned. Housing site for families with no house is going to be provided by the Congress party if they are voted to power. 5 lakh rupees for construction of this house. 250 square yards house site for activists in Telangana is also something that the Congress is promising. Next up is a guarantee for the youth of the state. Financial assistance card of 5 lakh rupees to all students across the states. That is what they are promising. International schools will also be built in every mandal. That is a promise that the Congress has made in Telangana. Next up, we have for the elderly, pension of 4,000 rupees per month to all senior citizens in the state. There is going to be a health insurance for senior citizens for the elderly that is going to be put in place as well, worth 10 lakh rupees. These are the 6 guarantees that Congress has promised in the state of Telangana. Now let's take a look at how exactly they are going to bring in these promises, because where is the money? Telangana government's debt has increased manifold since the state came into being. Union's finance minister has told the parliament that Telangana's debt has gone up from 75.5 thousand crore rupees in 2013 to 3.2 lakh crore in 2023. That is an 300% increase. You can see the graph from 2013-2014 when the state came into being to where we are right now. That is about a 300% jump. If we add more burden to the exchequer, are you just doing this for elections is a question many are asking, including Congress's rivals in the state. Now, Telangana's debt burden is continuing to mount. The total liabilities have moved closer to 4 lakh crore rupees. There's a CAG report that came to the fore a few months ago that has raised questions on the financial health of the state as well. The total liabilities were to the tune of 3.21 lakh crore rupees. It amounted to 24% of the GSDP is what the CAG observed. Here are some of the highlights of the report that came to the fore. The CAG said that public debt and other liabilities had increased by 16% from the previous year. The revenue deficit, 9,335 crore rupees. That was the revenue deficit during 2021-2022. The CAG also observed that the state was borrowing funds and those funds were utilized for debt repayment. So you were taking on more debt to settle your existing debt, and that is a problem. Capital expenditure growth didn't keep pace with the GSDP is also another observation that the Comptroller and Auditor General made. There is excess expenditure in health, Panchayati Raj and irrigation. Whether that is because there was some mismanagement as far as budget allocation and the actual expenditure was concerned, or whether it was just not calculated enough, whether the state government was spending more just for welfare, that is also something that the CAG had observed. All parties, included the BRS, the BJP, have made certain promises to woo the voters in the state. But is this about welfare, or is this merely to catch votes, something that could come at the expense of the state exchequer? That's the big debate tonight.
ये गारंटी आपको दे रहे हैं। जैसा कर्नाटक में हम 5 गारंटी देकर और वहां के जनता को आज 5 गारंटी का जो डेट दिए थे आज वो इम्प्लीमेंट हो रहा है।
అంటే మళ్ళా గ్యారంటీగా తప్పిపోయి గట్ట మీరు మమ్మల్ని గెలిపిస్తే మిమ్మల్ని గోల్మాల్ చేస్తామని వాళ్ళు ఓపెన్గా చెప్తా ఉన్నారు. మరి గోల్మాల్ వాళ్ళని చేద్దామా మనమైదామా ఆలోచన చేయాల్సింది మీరు అని చెప్పి నేను మనవి చేస్తా ఉన్నా.
Hello, Moto.
Joining me on this broadcast of the Right Stand, Anil K. Antony, National Secretary of the BJP, Krishang Mane of the BRS, and Ram Mohan Reddy, spokesperson of the Congress, joining me on this debate. Thank you, gentlemen, for speaking with us here on this broadcast. And I'd like to begin by asking Mr. Reddy of the Congress Party. We've seen 6 guarantees that have been put forth by your party. You say that first cabinet, all of them will be put in place. They will be implemented as soon as possible if the Congress is voted to power. But as far as Karnataka is concerned, there were several hurdles that were faced by the state back then as well. Are you confident that you are going to be able to deliver on the promise you're making today?
Yes, we are 100% confident that we are going to deliver it 100%. Because see, let me tell you that the implementation of the 6 guarantees is not mission impossible. It is possible. Let me also remind you that before 2014 in erstwhile AP, where all these 70% of these guarantees were covered in our welfare schemes. Let me remind you that. And you know, in this decade time, under the ruling of this BRS government, people lost these welfares. So now we just wanted to revive it and bring back to the people. So what's wrong in it? And we are not in a position that we cannot afford it. See, that is the situation. That is the report card of BRS. In this decade time, you know, they have grown debt just like you told. Like you actually, you know, said like it is around 300% of debt rise. But it is more than 300%. It is almost 600%. It is almost 600%. We are not counting the local bodies and the guarantees given. If all considered, you know, the debt has gone up to above 5 lakh crores. And now, the point which needs to be highlighted here is the wastage of money on irrigation projects like Kaleshwaram, which is not yielding a single acre for irrigation. Like, you know, it is not drawing a single drop of water from Godavari basin. We challenged that. We challenged BRS party to come to Medigadda, which recently sank.
Sure. And that is an investigation in that project is also something that you have promised in your manifesto. But Mr. Reddy, I want to ask you this. You just said that I quoted a 300% increase as far as debt is concerned, but it's much more than that. But on the other hand, you're also saying that you can afford this. How can those two go hand in hand? Aren't you just then plunging the state into further debt? Is that a wise financial decision to be made by a party who wants to come to power?
We have given the state into the hands of BRS government with a surplus budget of 18,000 crores. And at that time, we were, you know, fighting for our rightful portion. That is where the agitation rose. And that is how the statehood happened. So now, it is all about the wealth generation as well. When BRS government is not having any idea of generating wealth, just end up going on uprising and debts and, you know, trying to fulfill the promises. And in fact, on ground, these schemes are not even reaching the people. That is the reason we quote this Sarkar as sample Sarkar. If there are like 1 lakh people who are covered under this scheme, only around 500 to 1,000 people are covered. How can we say that the welfare is reaching everyone? No, it is not.
Sure. Krishang Mane, your heart may have been in the right place, but you didn't distribute the wealth properly, which is why Telangana sees the issue it's seeing today, says the Congress.
Well, Poonamji, 65 lakh farmers receive Raitu Bandhu, after which Government of India started a scheme like Raitu Bandhu, after which even West Bengal state government also started a scheme. Neither the Congress, which ruled this nation for decades and decades, or in fact the United Andhra Pradesh for also decades, have never started this. But today, after a successful Raitu Bandhu, Congress in their so-called manifesto announces few more additional monetary amount for it and copies our scheme. Number one, Kalyan Lakshmi, Shadi Mubarak, which is already a successful program which was never there in the government of India, anywhere, any state of India. Telangana has given 1,01,016 rupees for a newlywed young woman, which Congress has copied and announced in its manifesto. Number two, not just these two, even Dalit Bandhu, Congress has copied it and announced in its manifesto. So why would Telangana people need a copycat Congress party when it is already being executed by Chief Minister KCR? Now Congress talks about projects. It is hilarious. The CAG has quoted that the Congress is a Lutera Congress. They have looted on the name of projects even before. Why didn't you construct Pranahita Chevella when you were there in power for 10 years? What were you plucking? Why didn't you do the Palamuru Rangareddy project? You promised national statuses, but you did not even give water. Congress period mein Telangana has seen no water. People have seen water wars. There were water wars for kilometers. People used to walk. Yes, this has been for Congress a mockery. People like Chidambaram come here and say, sorry, few people have died for Telangana. Sorry, not, sir, not few people. Thousands have died of Telangana because of you. Yes, you need to apologize. Madam Sonia Gandhi has to apologize. Mr. Rahul Gandhi has to apologize. The whole manifesto itself is a joke because in Karnataka we are seeing how Mr. D.K. Shivkumar has clearly stated that they do not have funds for development. Congress MLA Tedakshari has stated that because of their so-called guarantees or some promises, they could not deliver in the constituencies for development. So Karnataka itself is an example today that Congress's promises are a blunder, flop, failure. Telangana people will not believe what kind of promises. No one has ever given scooties, madam, in this country. So many governments have promised in different state manifestos. Congress also has promised here scooties today. Show me one state government anywhere who has given scooties, but they have kept it in manifesto. That itself is a joke by the Congress party that they are not going to do it. It is a 420 promise.
But promises have been made. But promises have been made on both sides, and I want to get in the National Secretary of the BJP, Mr. Antony, as well. Promises have been made both by the BRS and the Congress. The BJP is yet to release its manifesto. We're hoping that happens tomorrow, and we'll find out what exactly are the promises that the BJP is making for the state. But as far as freebies is concerned, or what the state calls welfare schemes, all parties are equally guilty, isn't it? Because even the BJP in all the other states where we've seen elections happen, including Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, the BJP too has announced several of these schemes. How does it become welfare for one party but a freebie for another?
Thank you for having me in the show. So now there is a lot of hype and euphoria that is created by the Congress party, saying that they are setting new yardsticks as far as manifestos are concerned. But let me make one thing very clear here. If you look at the Bharatiya Janata Party and our performance in the last 9.5 years under our Prime Minister, we have been setting new highs as far as development is concerned and as far as delivery is concerned. At one side, India, as you are all aware, is right now the fastest growing economy. We have almost doubled our GDP in the last 9.5 years. And alongside unprecedented growth and alongside all this capacity we are creating, infrastructure development we are creating, we are also delivering as far as redistribution is concerned. And these are not just, let's say, hyped up numbers. We are having crores of toilets, crores of houses, crores of tap water connections, etc., which we have delivered on the ground. So we are doing both development as well as we are doing redistribution, where we are following our motto, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and Sabka Vishwas. Then you look at the Congress party, which, let's say, I'm giving you facts on the ground of what the party has been doing before the election and after the election, where in rare cases where the party has come to power. In a few months back, maybe a year back, the Congress party won Himachal Pradesh. They had made a lot of promises in their manifesto. For example, they said that they will buy milk for 100 rupees per liter. They will give 300 units of free electricity. They promised rupees 1,500 to 22 lakh women. So these are all some of the promises they made before the election, and after the election they haven't even acted on it. Another is Karnataka, where they promised rupees 3,000 for graduates, rupees 1,000 for diploma holders under a Yuvanidhi program. They promised 200 units of electricity, and after they have won the elections now, already they have brought it down to 30 to 50 units because of multiple considerations. Last time, Madhya Pradesh, they promised 4,000 rupee unemployment allowance. They had a government for 15 months. They didn't act on it. So you are seeing a party which right now, the Congress party, for a long time, it has set new yardsticks on corruption and scams. And now they are taking it to another level where they are now blatantly scamming the public, where they are announcing different things before the election with zero intention to actually implement it after the elections are over. So at one side you have the Bharatiya Janata Party that is very clearly setting unprecedented growth trajectory. We are delivering what we are promising in development as well as redistribution schemes. We are not against freebies, but we believe in growth and redistribution. We believe in inclusive development. And at the same time, what does the Congress even stands for? First of all, you look at any Congress state in this country, one of the rare examples again where there is a 5-year Congress government, which is Rajasthan. In 5 years, situation have become so bad that right now it is one of the few states in the country where the debt to state GDP ratio is almost 40%. Debt is almost 40% of the state GDP, one of the highest in the country. And now they are in a scenario where they can't even pay their own, they can't pay state employees, they can't pay outstanding debts. And this is where one of the few states the Congress party has been ruling, has been taken to. They are keeping on giving more and more promises before elections, before each state elections, and the last 4 situations they haven't delivered. They haven't even acted on it. So this party has zero intention to act. They are fooling the public. They are scamming the public. While the Bharatiya Janata Party is for growth, for development, for redistribution, where we believe in inclusive development and taking people forward.
Yes, Mr. Anthony, you said you're not against freebies. So are you agreeing that these are freebies? These are meant only for catching votes.
We have made something. See, Bharatiya Janata Party doesn't believe in just distribution for the sake of it. We believe in creating sustainable capacity. You look at some of the things we have done as a part of our delivery and schemes, like I already mentioned, the PM Housing Yojana, which already got over crores of beneficiaries. The Jal Jeevan Mission, again crores of beneficiaries. Again our gas connection, toilet connections, again crores of beneficiaries. Then we are creating digital public infrastructure. We are creating digital goods. So what we are doing, it's actually a service to the people, which is sustainable, which is
what
hard
the BJP
capacity.
has maintained.
And alongside that, let's say in Madhya
BJP has
Pradesh,
maintained that this is empowerment.
So
it's not a freebie. But I'll come back to the question that
we
I was
are empowering
asking.
the people,
Sure,
where
but I'll
we
come
are
back to the
focusing
question
on
that
growth.
I had asked to begin with. How do we decide what is empowerment and what is freebie? How does one party's promise become a freebie and the other party's promise become a welfare scheme or empowerment?
See, when you give a house, when you give a tap, when you create a toilet, when you give tap water connections, when you give gas connections, when we give digital public infrastructure, this is not a one-time thing. This is something that is sustainable, that goes on for a long time. And these are the kind of things which we focus on, along with our growth trajectory, along with creating hard infrastructure again, along with our infrastructural and developmental processes. But you look at the Congress manifesto, they don't have a vision or a direction to create any of those things. You're only trying to, let's say, bribe the voter before the election by saying we will give you this rupee, that rupee, we will give you 1,000 rupee for this scheme, that scheme, etc. And then alongside that, sadly this party hasn't delivered on any of the scenarios where they came to governance after an election. In Himachal, in Karnataka, even Madhya Pradesh, the last time they came to power, they haven't delivered. They promised a lot of things and they are just scamming the people. They are not delivering. So this party has no intention
I'll get
to even
Reddy
say
as well
what
in
they
on
are.
this, that the BJP says, Mr. Reddy, that we are empowering people because we're thinking of long term. We're not just handing out doles or giving money in the hands of people, because that's a one-time thing and that's only meant to lure voters, and that's where it ends. They're also citing examples of other states where you've made these promises, including Himachal Pradesh. And what happened to that?
The people of Telangana are not prepared to have this Manipur model of manifesto or Manipur model of BJP administration.
Now
People have enough witnessed. People have enough witnessed. See the model which they always cite. So I have just now seen that BJP spokesperson is making rounds around toilets several times. I don't know. They don't have better terms other than toilets. Why? Because they don't have much thing to say. What their empowerment is all about, privatizations. All their empowerment is all about Adani's and Ambani's enrichments. What did they do? What did they do? So if you just compare the MSP for the farmers, and if you just compare the three black laws of farmers, so what are all these?
Sure.
What made Honorable Prime Minister to come forward and say or apologize to the people? So these are all the faults which are being done by BJP, and we don't want to give much space because there is no space for BJP in Telangana. But
Sure.
let me just highlight the points which VRS spokesperson addressed. Like he mentioned Raitu Bandhu. In fact, Raitu Bandhu is a scheme copied from 2018 Congress Party's manifesto of page number 5. It's a point number 18. And today, after copying our point, they come up with this scheme and says that it is our innovation. Okay, let us put it forward like that. But the total budget, what they allocated or given or sanctioned for that scheme is 72,000 crores. And Kalyan Lakshmi, what he mentioned, in this total decade, they have given 1,300 crore rupees.
Sure, so they're
only.
accusing you
That
of
means
copy-paste, but Krishank Mane, you haven't delivered on the promises you made. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time, but 30 seconds for a rebuttal before I close this. Krishank Mane.
Well, see, when Congress doesn't have anything to say, they will just manufacture lies. We have executed. I am talking about the execution of the schemes. Execution of the schemes. Congress, which was there for 50 above years in this nation, is saying that we've kept it in the manifesto. Why did you deliver then? The whole point of
come to power.
They
You
try
people
to,
are elected.
Sir, you're on a national channel.
We are
Please
not in
behave.
power.
Have some dignity. Have some dignity.
Sure.
No, we are not in power.
Sure.
Don't-
We're not in power. We're
don't show
making
your
these promises. That
don't show your
brings
intellectual
me
bankruptcy.
back to the question: is this all about luring voters before elections and not really about ensuring that they're implemented? And that really leaves the
Poonamji, I
voter,
haven't finished.
and that really leaves the voter wanting. But Mr. Mane, yes, go ahead.
See, they have whole 42 pages, a 420 document of the Congress. They have failed in delivering all these. Today they come up with,
wrong,
be
it's
like
a
a state
32-page
government.
manifesto.
Sir, have some audacity to listen. Don't show your intellectual bankruptcy here on a national channel, please. So the point
We
is,
have
you
no
announce,
confidence with your bankruptcy model, Krishank.
you have.
Gentlemen, unfortunately, I do not have any time. Krishank Mane, please just make your point within 20 seconds before I have to wrap this up.
Poonamji, they are a false secular party because
That
they
is
have
what has
named
been a
one
politics being
particular
played in
religion.
Telangana. They don't have
One particular religion. Why can't he be silent and listen out at least? You have announced gold for one religion. That shows that you are not a secular party, you are a bogus party. That you have only announced for one particular religion and gold, which cannot happen in reality, but that shows that you are also into appeasement and polarizing politics, and Congress is not a secular politics. It does not have
Sure.
any kind of secular values.
Sure. So is this all about wooing the voter before the election and not really walking the talk after it? That's a question many voters across the country are asking, but I have to leave it at that. I thank you all gentlemen for joining us here on this broadcast. It's time for a quick break here, but on the other side, we have a special super exclusive with Union Minister Piyush Goyal. Don't miss that.
Hello, Moto.
I want to tell
अभी सामने बस स्टैंड था तो आनंद बारह बस स्टैंड
He's just come off the APEC summit, not just in the room with President Joe Biden and Xi Jinping, but a clear message coming in from President Biden that America is going to work with Bharat to try and improve the deep tech and semiconductor business in India with a lot of focus. And that's something that we've been pushing through very aggressively. But is it all smooth and is it all looking great? Because the aspect of trust, both within and without, remains. Union Minister Shri Piyush Goyal, last 4 days have been like a thorough ringer as usual. But are you happy with the kind of messaging that you've got at the APEC?
Truly delighted because I was representing Prime Minister Modi, and the huge respect that everybody has for Prime Minister Modi was evident in the warmth with which they received me. Both Excellency President Joe Biden, the First Lady, and a host of world leaders were very, very keen to know how Prime Minister Modi is, what's happening in India. They all missed him very much. And clearly they all see in India a trusted friend, a leader who can deliver, a leader who's very committed to the well-being of his people and who cares for the world. So I think it's been a very satisfying engagement, very fruitful in terms of outcomes, and certainly will lay the foundation for even stronger relations with many of our very trusted good friends.
As we speak, Madhya Pradesh is going to the ballot. By the time this goes on air, the ballot would have been cast. So I underline the same thing, because somewhere is this a vote not just on the governance that's been given within, but also the trust without. That means to the world at large. Do you get the sense that that sense of trust is perhaps developing, or is it still, is there a deficit?
I think Prime Minister Modi is universally acclaimed as the most loved leader. In fact, Prime Minister Tony Albanese was talking about the Prime Minister in the most flowing terms just before I came in for your interview, before the IPEF leaders meeting. And warmly remembering all his interactions with Prime Minister Modi, looking forward to his next visit to India.
Bharat was a guest at the invitation of the United States because they're playing host after 2011 for APEC. But from President Biden's commitment, somewhere it looks like Bharat is going to be a regular feature of APEC going forward. So are we formally joining the APEC? Are we moving in that direction?
Well, I don't think that was a subject of discussion in today's interaction. The focus was on sustainability and climate action. And I must say the respect they gave us, even though we were only an invited country for APEC, was phenomenal. Secretary Kerry, who was moderating the program, the discussions, and who laid the background of the subject before all the leaders spoke, had the kindest words to speak about the contribution of Prime Minister Modi and India. Many leaders on the table spoke exactly the language that India uses in terms of the responsibility of the developed countries towards the developing countries and less developed countries. In fact, President Biden also acknowledged that those who are really not responsible for this problem in the first place are the ones who are most affected by climate change. And I think that's a big statement coming from a world leader and shows that what Prime Minister Modi has been articulating on so many forums is now being accepted universally.
But on the other dynamic is the IPEF, and there are some significant achievements there. You know, the fifth pillar remains a bone of contention. First pillar, yeah.
Pillar on clean economy and fair economy have been substantially finalized. Legal scrubbing will now be taken up. So we would have done significant outcomes in barely 14 months. September was when we launched last year, the discussions. And I think never before have 14 countries come together with such substantive outcomes in such a short span of time. So one must acknowledge that there is a serious interest amongst partner countries to strengthen our relationship with each other. On the trade pillar, I think more work needs to be done, but we are all committed to working together. India also looks forward at some point to have a sense of what is finally being agreed upon and how the outcomes would impact India so that we can also take a decision on joining the first.
The other thing is I heard Secretary Gina Raimondo say that they're going to create a project preparation fund separately to evaluate opportunities, especially India and Vietnam.
I think the sincerity of purpose with which IPEF members have worked was reflected in the decision today to launch a US-India initiative, which is in some sense only the seeds or the beginning of a much larger objective. We all recognize that we need long tenor, low cost funds. We recognize that investors are also looking at signaling from the governments. And the signaling of the sort that has been done with America and India jointly co-funding this initiative and expecting large amounts of private capital also to ride on it. At some stage, possibly the World Bank also joining in. So this will be like a catalytic moment where we will be catalyzing larger pools of capital to come in and support clean energy projects in India. My sense is that this is just the beginning and will help make capital available more easily. Of course, we have a long way to go, but it's always the seeds of the future that is laid, which is the important moment in history.
One of the aspects of clean energy is also clean automobile or clean transport. So electric vehicles, there's a lot of talk. There was talk that you're here to bring Tesla to India. There was talk, now there is talk that they're going to be a separate policy for fully made cars to come into India, tariff duties, etc. How would you want to clear the air?
I think Prime Minister Modi and his government have been very, very focused on encouraging the adoption of electric mobility in India. We had FAME 1 for faster adoption of electric vehicles, then we had FAME 2. And we've been fairly successful in creating the awareness across the country for electric vehicles. We have two of our own companies, Tata's and Mahindra's, doing wonderful work with the electric vehicles. They are made in India, designed and created through our indigenous technologies and indigenous effort. Number of companies around the world have expressed interest in coming and setting up manufacturing in India. We do believe a large country like India with 1.4 billion people, with the growth of the economy, with growing per capita incomes, with growing prosperity and more people coming into the middle class, and people who are very conscious of their responsibility to the environment, very concerned about high levels of pollution, recognize that electric vehicles will be good for them. Also, one must acknowledge that with greater electric vehicles, we have 2 or 3 other advantages. A, our renewable energy, which is planned to grow to 500 gigawatt, the new target Prime Minister Modi has kept before the nation by 2030. 500 gigawatts is no mean achievement, and we are fast working towards that. I think hydrogen is another area, green hydrogen and green ammonia, where we are making rapid strides. Battery storage is being encouraged in India through advanced cell technology. With all of these efforts, e-mobility becomes a natural outcome, particularly with the ability to have solar power, charge our battery systems, and the batteries then going on to run our electric vehicles. This can be a heady end-to-end mix, which is going to be clean all the way through. You will also recognize that this will help us in reducing our import of crude oil.
Correct.
And imagine an India which is not dependent on crude oil imports, our current account deficits will disappear, and the growth story would be just phenomenal for the country. So I think
You said
the
that
mobility,
double-digit growth in the morning. You were saying?
mobility story holds huge potential. And I personally believe that with greater adoption of electric vehicles in the country and a reduction in our import of crude oil, we would be not only reducing pollution levels and making India a better place to live in, we would also be effectively contributing to the clean world in the future. We'll be leaving behind a good legacy for future generations.
So a separate policy
and a strong national economy, which I think at some point could go up to right up to double-digit growth.
Well, but is there a separate policy for electric vehicles then in the making, which creates a level playing field?
Several policies, several incentives given out for auto components, for battery manufacturing. I mentioned the other day that one of the reasons I was keen to visit Tesla was the fact that they already source $1 billion worth of auto components from India. They're planning to double it this year. Now, all of this ecosystem is going to help the e-vehicles to become more competitively priced in India. Will help us become indigenous and increase our value addition in India. And I'm sure at some stage, more and more electric vehicle manufacturers will find it very attractive to come to India.
One of the other aspects is deep tech and semiconductors. You had that meeting with Qualcomm head, and they are increasingly growing their footprint. President Biden has spoken about trying to push semiconductors. Are we ready, Piyush, to actually start a foundry? No, from fab to actual chip, high-end chip manufacturing. It's a long-term thing because nations like Taiwan, China and all have been doing it for decades. Do we think we'll be able to provide that kind of resources also required for doing something like that?
I think it's a process and we are well entrenched in the process. I saw resonance in many of my meetings, both in the private sector. I met Micron earlier yesterday. We had meetings with Qualcomm today. Both have significant plans for India, growth plans and investment plans. I do believe the governments across the world are looking for reliable and trusted sources for their semiconductors also. And we are entering into the process where already design is done in a big way in India. Yeah. There are many companies who have thousands of people working on designing semiconductors or testing of semiconductors in India. I think this process is going to get wings as the policies around semiconductor incentivization takes place. The spec scheme is now taking off.
Yeah.
More and more Indian engineers will get trained in the semiconductor industry. And all of this portends a good future for the industry.
So is there going to be a government fillip to the capex? Are you going to be?
Yes, the entire semicon mission talks about significant incentives for people investing in the semiconductor industry. We also have states giving out significant benefits and concessions. All in all, my sense is that in the next few years, we'll gradually move up the cycle and you'll see more downstream and upstream investments so that we have an end-to-end value chain in semiconductors.
Where is the challenge? What is it that they're telling you closed doors when you ask the media to step out? They're raising some concerns.
I think it's not so much concerns as the recognition of the pathway and the understanding that we have to go through that pathway. There will be a process where you start with design, you start with creating the talent and the ecosystem, ensuring the infrastructure is right for that industry. And being a very high precision industry, it's very important that the building blocks are in place. And I think under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, India is creating the building blocks right. That's the message I got from both the government leaders whom I had a chance to talk about this subject and with the private sector who engaged with me.
Is there a concern on political stability, continuity? Are there some trying to put a pause button saying, let's wait till Lok Sabha 2024?
I didn't see that at all. I almost got every world leader's request to be conveyed to Prime Minister Modi, inviting him to their country. And many leaders are looking forward to coming to India in the next calendar 2024 for different meetings, for different bilateral engagements. And when I would say that we would have an election from March to May, the only thing was, okay, then we'll come after May and meet Prime Minister.
One of the things many are saying is initiatives that were mooted by Bharat to try and connect the world at various levels have gotten derailed because of the recent conflict situation. Now, President Biden had said that it's his assimilation, it's his summation that the India-Middle East Economic Corridor riled up some nations. That's why we see what we're seeing between Israel and Hamas. The president of Israel has made a direct quote that there was a need to try and thwart Israel's attempts to try and become the bridge nation. Are all of these conflicts going to hurt us, sir? Because our import bills are also going up with respect to crude because of conflict.
All conflict is bad. India believes in peaceful coexistence. We condemn terrorism in every form, anywhere in the world. And India has suffered because of terrorism. My home city, Mumbai, has had some of the worst terrorist attacks. Kashmir, until Article 370 was removed in August of 2019, would see terrorist activities on a daily basis. It's only after August 2019 that we've been able to put a lid on terrorist activities, save and except the rear guard action that sometimes you see the terrorists indulging in. I think by and large the people of the world have recognized that India has been able to thwart terrorism quite well.
On the sidelines, I've had the opportunity of speaking with members of the Quad Investors Forum, of USISPF, of USIBC, also with the CII, so that represents India Inc. to a large extent. You feel personally that there is this whole block which was there that's now been lifted. Do you see a greater interest, or is everybody still saying "Dekhta hai"? Yes.
I didn't see
Make
that
the right
block
noises, but do that.
in the last many years. I don't know which block you're talking.
No, it's that they won't just bite, It was still there, that the sharks are still not out there on the hunt.
We did have had record FDIs for so many years in a row. If this was the case, I think that's not entirely true. They're looking for large investments. In fact, if at all my experiences of the last few months' engagements tell me something, it's about they're wanting much larger action and much larger opportunities to invest. And I don't think capital will be a problem as India grows its economy. We'll see many more entrepreneurs getting interest from across the world.
So we are very proud of our federal structure, but somewhere places where there is no double engine ki sarkar, Is that a hindrance to our growth path? Are states working in tandem with the center beyond politics when it comes to economics?
We have had instances where some of the states have reneged on commitments made. Possibly sometimes an earlier government makes a commitment and with a change of guard, new governments have reneged on their commitments, and which does cost India dear. You might have observed that Prime Minister Modi, after he took charge at the central government level, continued to honor every commitment made by a previous government. And he genuinely is a person who is committed to policy stability, predictable regulatory framework, and continuity in government. And in an ideal case scenario, if we can get that same commitment from various political formulations at the state, and they don't flip-flop on regulation and public policy, I think India would get far greater amounts of capital and at more competitive return expectations or costs.
So you do admit that it becomes a deterrent at times.
It certainly adds to uncertainty in some cases, which is why we strongly advocate people to have a government which is sensitive to the people's needs, is really conscious of their responsibilities to the nation, and which is sincere in its desire to provide a better quality of life, a better future for the citizens of the state.
So, as one of the star campaigners of the BJP, that plug had to happen. You're also leading the campaign as far as Rajasthan is concerned. So the political plug has happened there. I'll come back to the politics to the last two questions. But before that, one of the nations that has been spoken about, or economies in this region, is Vietnam. Some of the other nations which the West is looking to invest in along with Bharat. Those nations have multiple FTAs with more number of nations, which make them attractive trade destinations. Are we looking to sign a few more FTAs, or has geopolitics put the spanner in the works for some?
Vietnam is not working under a democratic framework like India. So it's much easier for them to go forward, and with a smaller population base, their areas of concern when they are doing an FTA are much less. For India, with 1.4 billion people, 140 crore citizens, Indians, and with so much diversity and such a strong manufacturing base, such an important agricultural center, we have a significant amount of caution when we are negotiating FTAs. Despite that, under Prime Minister Modi's charge, you've already seen Mauritius getting executed, Australia, the UAE FTA, the fastest ever done in history. We are in negotiation with several other countries, or block of countries. In fact, in the course of the meetings today, two very senior leaders of Latin American countries discussed it with their own interest to speed up an FTA with India. So I see that across the world, that there's a desire to expand trading relationships with India. And there's a desire to demonstrate to the world the closeness with India.
PM has spoken about this. Across the world, we are seeing this authoritarianism versus democracy, or democracy versus dictatorship. If you were to loosely say that, it's the fight that's happening.
I beg your pardon. It's not a fight.
Or is it tussle?
It's a tussle. But there are different economic models.
How is democracy faring in that sense? Because then, if authoritarian regimes are taking faster decisions, they are able to implement faster. And so is the world gravitating towards that direction?
Everything comes with a price. The fact that we are a democracy, a vibrant democracy, with the rule of law, very strong judiciary, media, transparency in operations, strong right to information. With this framework, investors feel secure. Investors feel there will be justice in the country. You won't find an instance where a person does well, becomes rich, makes it well in business, one day suddenly disappearing.
Yeah.
Only to appear as a professor in the university. So I think that's the strength of India.
So you're saying that confidence of the world in Bharat is not going to be shaken if the BJP does poorly in the upcoming state election?
Well, we've laid a very strong foundation, And the state elections, I expect that we will do very well. As of now, I've had a chance to study or be a part of Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. And my own sense is all the three states, the BJP will be winning.
That's a big statement. Oh, contrary to what the pollsters are saying, what everybody is expecting, saying BJP may just hang on to one of these states, not all of them, or nowhere.
Not at all. In fact, Chhattisgarh looks to be very good, and very good for the BJP in terms of the support we're getting from the public at every forum. And I think we'll win comfortably in Chhattisgarh. Rajasthan would be absolute victory, very good victory. People have totally lost confidence in Mr. Gehlot. There's been corruption, there's been a lethargy about economic development. All the gains the state had under an earlier BJP regime have dissipated, particularly things like the power sector, which has gone to the boondocks under Mr. Gehlot, the corruption scandals, the misuse of government funds. All of that lends one to clearly see Congress going out of Rajasthan.
So you're saying that the biggest states are all going to be colored in the BJP colors very soon, come December 3rd.
I think so. BJP is doing extremely well in all three states.
Well, wish you all the best on that. And by the time this interview is on air, ladies and gentlemen, he would be leaving on a jet plane and in the thick of the action in Rajasthan. Piyush Goyal, always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. The gentleman next to me needs no introduction to the people who are watching, because M.R. Rangaswamy, you are the person to go to in terms of consult. Now with Indiaspora, earlier Sandhill, somebody who's written and seen the entire story of Silicon Valley as an entrepreneur, investor. Sir, thank you very, very much for your time, and really appreciate you that in the thick of this APEC summit, you've taken a walk to the Union Square to come and chat with us here at CNN News 18. Thank you very, very much.
Anytime, Anand. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So my first question to you, where is India in the consideration set of the world as it's looking beyond China? How have we been able to sell our story? A candid assessment.
So everybody knows now it's China plus one, right? But there are many, many options when you say China plus one. Is it nearshoring? Is it friendshoring? What is it going to be, right? And in that context, I think India needs to earn its place. It can't just sit back and say by default we'll get business, right? And that's what India is doing, honestly. I think India is going out. The minister is here, actively soliciting and talking up India. So that's what it needs, right? So we need to really grab the attention of these companies that are moving from China to a second source and bring them to India. That would be my...
But you're speaking to a lot of the Indiaspora. That
Right.
means entrepreneurs and people who are doing well are from the Indian diaspora. What is their sentiment itself, even before I look at the rest of them? Because they themselves are a collective pool, can contribute significantly in terms of investment, in terms of opportunities, and in terms of spurring the India growth story. For them, what's your assessment? And I know you interact with them very closely. Can we, as a market, leapfrog into providing sustainable growth? Because the story is green growth, the story is clean economies or green economies, but we as a nation want to become a developed economy by 2047, get to about 35 trillion. Now, all of this, how are we going to be able to do? And from the Indian diaspora, what's the sentiment?
Yeah, I think there's a nice contrast and comparison between the Indian diaspora and India itself, right? We started in diaspora 11 years ago. The Indian American community was just coalescing, maturing to a point, where we could make impact and have influence, right? India has been in the same trajectory, starting out 10 years ago as an economy, trying to get better, trying to improve, mature, and be more successful. So both of these have similar, trajectory lines. So the Indian American community is now the richest community in the US, 60 CEOs in the Fortune 500, 7% of the doctors, 10% of the IT workforce. We are really, and of course now playing a role in politics with the vice president and many others in the Biden administration. So as that has happened, you can look at India's trajectory, growing now to 3 trillion. The trade between US and India expanding from 100 billion a decade ago to like 200 billion now.
What do you think are one or two of the biggest deterrents or things that we need to change under the current government? And are things going to go on, a bit of a pause till the general elections happen?
I think this is the decade of India. I think a lot of things have, the perfect storm has been created where the sentiment is against China. I think the US-India partnership has really strengthened. So this is absolutely the decade for India to really take advantage and grow and be successful.
But are there some things which you think that the government needs to really fix immediately? I'm sure you're making your suggestions, but is there a feedback that's also coming to you through?
I mean, we've given feedback over time. For example, there was an angel tax, can you fix that? Then there are new issues with labor and, so those are all, I think, been told to the government. And I think, like I said, you need to see more success stories like the Apples, where they have factories, they're doing well, and tell those stories, tell those stories to other companies and deliver on the same way we delivered with Apple. And that's all I think people can ask at this time, is to get deals and execute. There's nothing else that India needs to do. Get some deals, execute.
Well, there are a lot of entrepreneurs in India, a lot of them who believe that they can do things there rather than looking outward to the world. They just need a bit of a push. Your final word to those young entrepreneurs there and those young minds who really believe. In fact, even here, I've met a few of them who say, why do we need anybody else's tech? Why can't we develop our own? I'm going to, help those companies, fund some people who are innovators and trying to get them, and let us make it in India itself. So your final message to those youngsters, those young minds?
Yeah, I would say with the young people, this is the decade of India. This is the promise. India has a great digital infrastructure. So if I'm focusing on things in India, I would focus on the Bharat story much more than the external story, because for the external story, to deal with things like AI and stuff, you do need Western help. But with the Bharat story, you don't need any help. The billion customers and consumers. So go after that story.
Well, thank you very much. So someone who's got such confidence on the India story, I think it just encourages all of us to believe a little more. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you.
Co-powered by
Smoggy conditions continue to prevail here in the national capital. I'm coming to you from the Anand Vihar area, which is one of the hotspots of pollution here in the national capital. First, let's directly go to the visuals. Actually, this visual gives you the correct picture. As of now, here at this very point, the AQI has breached the 500 levels once again, and this is after a relief from the pollution, and in fact not relief, but there was improvement in numbers slightly when numbers were hovering around 450 levels, because this place is accustomed to numbers somewhere in the hazardous category and around 900 levels at this point in time. And as of now, the numbers are showing no respite for the people of the national capital. In fact, largely in Delhi, the AQI remains in the severe category, where most of the pockets are reporting numbers beyond 400 to 450 levels. Well, temporary measures are being taken over here. In fact, you can see how water sprinklers are being used to curb this pollution issue here at Anand Vihar. Apart from that, many plans of the Delhi government are in place, including Graded Response Action Plan 4. In fact, yesterday Gopal Rai chaired important meeting pertaining to this very issue, and in fact a special task force has been created by the Delhi government, where senior officials will be heading this very special task force, which will be giving a daily update about the situation of the pollution here in the national capital. Well, most of the steps are being taken by the government, and in fact, steps like odd and even are also being depended upon. In fact, earlier how we saw that in earlier years also, and in fact earlier also, schemes like odd even were implemented, though Supreme Court had come heavily on the government regarding certain measures which were taken here in the national capital. In fact, I'll give you the
Welcome everyone to Kings of Cricket, and today we'll be talking all about the big India versus Australia finale of the ICC ODI World Cup 2023. The match will be played at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad at 2 p.m. on Sunday, and over 1 lakh spectators will be present, and you can bet your bottom dollar there'll be a lot of celebrities and politicians and the who's who of the world here to watch the mega clash. Both the teams are on a winning streak. Team India has been unbeaten so far in the campaign. They won all their 10 matches this time around. And then the other side is Australia, that have also won their last 8 matches after the first 2 defeats in the league stage. Interestingly, both teams met each other in that opener for them in the World Cup, and India managed to defeat Australia by 6 wickets. The partnership between Virat Kohli and KL Rahul that day made sure that the Kangaroos were left to lick their wounds. But it was that match where the Indian batting lineup was in a spot of bother, and then Virat Kohli was dropped. Was that the turning point? Not just for him, but for the Indian team? Well, we'll know on Sunday. But the final is also a reminder, of course, of the scar that Australia left for us in the 2003 World Cup final, when Ricky Ponting and company completely humiliated the men in blue and registered a staggering 125-run victory. Since then, of course, we did make the final of 2011 at home and won the title in Mumbai at the Wankhede. So some consolation, some solace really that came our way. But Indian fans will be hoping we can avenge that loss against Australia this time around. And there are many similarities between the 2003 and the 2023 finale. Back then, Australia were the unbeaten team. This time, India is the unbeaten team in the campaign. And in 2003, an Indian was leading the runs tally, just like Virat Kohli is leading the runs tally this time around. And Rahul was the wicketkeeper for the team. But this time, India has the home advantage and the support of 1 billion people that have worked as the 12th man. So, will India win its 3rd ODI World Cup title this time? First up, let's begin with this report.
The stage is set and the teams are ready. It's time for the biggest cricket match of the year, the ODI World Cup finale. It's time for India versus Australia at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. Both teams faced each other in their opening match of this edition of the marquee tournament. The men in blue dismantled Australia and went on to win the match by 6 wickets. This time, India is looking forward to win the trophy for the 3rd time and is running super high on confidence. The men in blue are yet to lose a match in this tournament. If they beat the Aussies in the finale as well, then Rohit Sharma and company would become just the third after Australia and West India to remain undefeated in an ODI World Cup. On the other hand, Australia is known to perform at the big stage. Despite losing the opening 2 matches, Australia went on to win all the remaining matches in the World Cup and will now aim to win the prestigious trophy for the record 6th time. If we look at the head-to-head record, both teams have met each other in the ODI World Cup 13 times. Australia has emerged victorious in 8 matches. India and Australia last clashed in the final of a World Cup back in 2003. Australia won that game by 125 runs and lifted the World Cup trophy for the 3rd time. But now India has the home advantage and a deadly bowling lineup which is capable of defending low totals as well. Together with their in-form batting lineup, they are the team to beat. Both teams will have to bring their A game to the final to be able to beat the other.
We're in the final stage of the World Cup and it's been an absolute pleasure for me to have with us the best expert panel this World Cup anywhere on Indian television. I'm joined in the studio with 1983 World Cup winner Mohinder Amarnath. With me today is a special guest, former English cricketer Monty Panesar is with us in our studios. Monty, your friend Graham Swan, who's wearing the England Lions jersey today, is joining you from where? Dubai, is it, Swanee?
Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi, right.
Hello, Monty.
Hello, Swanee. That's my spin twin. Both of us. I think we came to
Honestly,
India.
seeing that man's face makes me smile like you would not believe. What a hero, Monty Panesar.
Yeah, we go back Northampton days. We were spin partners there, and then back in 2012 when we came to India, we were spin partners then.
Yes.
So, you know, me and Swanee, I think we beat India, didn't we? In India.